title of this Dharma talk is Just Observe, number 6. So you can see how excited I am about promoting this particular way of working with your mind. If you're just observing what is happening, the movement, lack of movement, the contrast, the ups and the downs of your mind and everything else that's happening around you in your environment, then you will not be doing too much reaching out or pushing or pulling. You'll be receiving. If you're observing, then something is happening or something is occurring, perhaps. Your mind may be roiling around, your emotions, your memories, coming and going, coming and going. And the idea with this practice, as I've said on 5 different occasions, is to see what's there. Just see what it is, not see what it is and leave to a description of it, but see what it is and not leave to what it's called, or see what it is and not leave to, I like it, I don't like it, it's good, it's bad, it should be, it shouldn't be, but to just see what it is. Just see that. If you look closely at whatever's arising, I don't care if it's a thought, a memory, a set of dishes. If you look at what's there and you do it long enough and persistent enough, you will begin to see what it fundamentally is, which I've said hundreds of times. It is not separate. This is a very pragmatic, practical, ontological way of working with anything. You actually make it into something so you can see that it isn't something. You look at something that looks like it's something else until you see that you're not separate from that. And of course, it can also happen the other way, where you start to flash on, who's seeing this? Is there an entity, a solid being who doesn't want this but wants this, who's picking and choosing? And so by doing this and exercising your mind, sitting down and over again, sit down, come into the zendo, come into your meditation room in your house, sit down, hold still, and train your mind. Exercise. What you're training your mind to do, what you're exercising your mind to do, is just observe, just to see what is occurring. And when that what is occurring arises as, I like it, I don't like it, then you haven't looked deeply into it. Because what is actually occurring is not an opinion about it, unless it is. And then if it's an opinion, then just continue to look at that without adding to anything like, I shouldn't have opinions. Or, well, at least this opinion is based in fact. Ever noticed how often we use that little phrase? Well, at least I'm not like them. Well, at least I'm not Puerto Rican. Wait a minute. There's somebody Puerto Rican. That was deliberate, you know that. At least I'm not. Well, at least, you could let ourselves off the hook for 15 minutes. At least I meditate. And so by training ourselves on the cushion, come in, sit down, we're bringing it starts as the minute you get up in the morning, but it starts the very moment you come through headed towards the cushion. You're beginning to take your seat as an observer, as a consciousness that is just going to receive whatever's happening. Receive your knee pain. This doesn't mean don't adjust your knee. That's a misunderstanding, to try to muscle through any difficulty you're having and not pay any attention to what your body is saying. You should listen to your body. I'm going to say this one time, and then I'm going to say, no, I think I'll say that another time. So here comes the first time. You should listen to your body and don't interpret what it's saying. All you people out there with bodies, don't interpret it. People are doing this everywhere. This happens, that happens, then they write a philosophy, they write a book about it. They set up a protocol for how to work with this. It's the great knuckle adventure. Everything can be understood by just feeling of the knuckles. Just feel the knuckles. Have you noticed? Well, you should. You should observe. You know, we can invent anything to keep ourselves from seeing what is fundamentally in front of us, because what is fundamentally in front of us, quite often we add to it. Well, I know what that is. The minute you jump to a conclusion about it, I know what that is. Or, well, I've already looked here. Well, this is not doing any good. Don't add. This is called discipline. Come in, sit down, hold still, observe. You might have something spontaneously come up that could be called boredom. You might have something spontaneously come up that could be called drowsiness. Whatever arises when you hold very still without being rigid, then you are basically saying to, I'm going to say the fancy word, to the universe, I'm ready. I'm ready to see this. I want to see this. This is how you sit in front of your Dharma gate. Sit down, hold still, see if it's really a gate. See if there's anything there. If you see something, that's called delusion. If you don't see anything, that's called delusion. Chuckle, chuckle. And I'm not, sometimes I laugh for no apparent reason, things that probably don't seem funny at all. But it's not so much about laughing at you or laughing at anything. It's just that something is really astonishing about this that goes under everyone's radar. And it goes under mine too. That's how I know. Because I see it go under it. And then I worry. What if I'm never able to see this again? What if my enlightenment goes away? So who said I was enlightened? There is no state that you have to accomplish. If you're trying to accomplish another state, this is a very provisional kind of teachings around Buddhism, around the Buddha, around this understanding that there's something else. It's being taught that way, and so therefore we look at the stages and the paths, and we look at that. But the understanding transcends all of those provisional situations. Excuse me. So observe, and if you'll find, I feel, I believe, I think. I don't really believe. Did I say that? I said I believe. Did I say I believe? I take that back. Now what can I say in its place? Let's see. I can't say believe. I feel. That's good. I'll use that one. I feel. What was I going to say? I feel that if you stretch, exercise your body, come, sit down, hold still. It's very difficult to promote this to anybody because it looks like it's like a magnet for presumption, preconception, judgment, evaluation. Well, why do that? Why do you? It's like why sit there and do nothing? And why we sit here and do nothing, so to speak, or meditate, or become an observer of whatever is continuing to move, is so that we can see more clearly how we create our own difficulty, rather than how we can fix something. Nothing is broken. There isn't anything. If you see what this is, it's over with. There isn't anything else to do. Well, there might be. You might help people. That observation can happen in any one of the sense fields. It can happen in the mind, memory. Anything that's moving is fair game. Way of talking about it. Don't mean to kill anything. If you sit down, hold still, and you watch your diaphragm move or your breathing is coming and going, and watch it. The idea here, the way I teach this, is don't fasten on it. Don't try to maintain some kind of state of clarity or state of mind by clinging to that or returning to that. That being said, you may find yourself going out on some kind of a imaginary track about this or that, or maybe starting to worry about something, or maybe starting to judge and find that suddenly maybe something brings you back, maybe someone comes through the door and makes a little bit of noise, and you're back in your, so to speak, in your body. And then something might follow that, like, oh, I was daydreaming. Don't do that. Don't call it anything. Or if you're going to call it something, change the name all the time. So it gets more confusing, because what gets confused is the self-centeredness, which is out to collect information to validate its existence. It's the radar of ego is always looking for something that's critical of it, doing something wrong, or validating, I must be on the right track here. I can help you here. If you're in this room, you're listening to me, you're giving me the benefit of the doubt for another half hour. You are not on the right track. The fundamental understanding that we all need to see, my way of saying it, is to see who is it? What is the identity that is actually witnessing, experiencing, living life, looking for this, trying to avoid that, to get to this, to get to that, to disagree with this person, agree with this person. The right and wrong part of it is you can spend the rest of your life just watching YouTube and pitting two YouTube seminars against each other. Do you know do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying you bring them together, but I'm saying there's one philosophy here and there's one here, and if there's someone with some intelligence there, they're probably going to sound, at least interesting, maybe even believable. I said it again. Questions so far? Shut up.
Is there a difference between trying to see what is in front of us and just seeing?
There could be some of the what part in there, but the idea is just have it on receive. Have your whole awareness, consciousness, this whole awareness matrix of the six sense fields and objects of sound, sight, smell, taste, touch, thoughts, and so on. Just hold very still, and you'll notice that something's moving a little bit in every one of those areas. You'll notice that you can actually move your awareness, and you can, if it could be called the word focus, I guess it could be a focus on just how the body feels. And you'll notice that the area of observing in what's happening in your consciousness kind of reduces a little bit. And then if you go to hearing, then how your body feels, and that kind of backs off. Have you noticed that? Does anyone notice that? I'm asking you a question. Yeah. So and if you're seeing that change, that go back and forth, please just continue to do that. There's no particular result of now I'm really in samadhi. Now my awareness is completely vast, and there's no result situation happening there. Make it a good one.
Is there fluctuating between that and now?
Between what and what?
The feeling of the samadhi.
You have to give me a nice crisp question, unless you if you don't want mush for an answer. Just a clear question. I mean, it sounds like I know what you're going to say, but you need to say it, because if I jump to conclusions about what you're saying, then I'm doing your work for you.
Is there an expanding and contracting of samadhi?
What do you think samadhi is? You just used the word. What is it? I used it too, but...
Yeah, I was just going off what you used.
What? Is it, someone want to give it a definition of samadhi, classical definition of samadhi? Yes.
I think it's translated something like one-pointedness, absorption.
Yeah. I don't necessarily agree with that. It's just interesting to hear you say that. I'm not disagreeing with you, but you're quoting somebody. Yes.
Me.
Huh?
Meditation.
Okay. So it's basically not non-duality or not two. So there isn't any one seeing that or doing that. So if you're in samadhi, you won't particularly know it. If you know it, then that's 3 or 4 steps down from samadhi, or up, if that's easier for you. Want to ask the question again or rephrase?
No thanks.
All right. Good. Yes? No? Okay. He pointed at you, so you get to ask. Yokodo.
When you were talking about the ego using reference points to reify itself, are you meaning the 5 skandhas as ego?
That's a way of breaking down the self-centeredness into that's form, feeling, perception, concept, consciousness. Yeah. So
when the ego is doing that, is it doing that as a group, or can it be parts of like just perception or just?
It's part. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So there's just like I can put my awareness on my body, and even though my seeing consciousness is not primary, it's still there. If something happens out here, I'll see it. I'll move spontaneously to track the movement. So, but yes, form, feeling, perception, concept, consciousness. Those 5 are just structural ways that the actuality of it. Maybe something we'll never totally understand conceptually, because concepts are just like that. They look at something and they actually abandon or leave the very thing that they're endeavoring to turn into a thought form, and they leave that, and then but it looks like there's something going on in that way. So there could be feeling could be stronger, concept could be stronger, and sometimes people who are practitioners will function in different ways. It's been said, Trungpa Rinpoche said that when asked one time, as I recall, that what happens to the 5 that self-centeredness of the 5 skandhas when one realizes enlightenment, or I can't remember what his words were, and he said they're still there, but they function on their own. They don't get together and they don't all hold hands and say we're somebody. So the feeling is just feeling. It's not happening to someone. The thinking is just thinking. There's no thinker behind the thought. Sometimes someone, I think Stephen Batchelor wrote a book called A Thinker Without Thoughts or something, or Thoughts Without a Thinker. Was that it? You read that? No. But you know the title. No. Yes, Jesse.
Is observation a skill that grows in ability and strength?
I think the thing that grows in ability and strength is getting your butt onto the cushion. That's the one we need to look at. Strengthen that one. Because once you get there, if you can get to the cushion and hold still, whatever happens, everyone's karma in here, I've met all of you. I've talked to all of you somewhat. And I can see the way in which, it's a very personal way in which you personally, to double up on that, will awaken. And I can't do it for you, but if I could, I would just say, do it. Stop doing this. But that doesn't work. I've tried that before, and people just sue me for hurting them. So, of course, I haven't done that. But I'm saying, you can see, been doing this a while, so you can see the way in which people's circularity, they really need to see they're doing that. And so therefore, the important thing for anyone to do is to get to the cushion, sit down, hold still, and endeavor to observe. I keep talking about observing because I think it's so important to download that program the observe program, you said. Now ask your question again and I'll come out of that.
Is observation a skill that grows in strengths and ability?
So, excellent question, and I would say no. There's no muscle there. We might talk about it as a muscle somewhat in order to discuss it, or say, yes, if you habituate yourself to something, it's probably going to continue to happen. But there's something about that area that when you go into that, but it is so formless that there's nothing there to make into something else. I mean, there is, because that's how this happened. But to actually, there's no way you can get better at this. It's not a relative path. It is not a mundane, and this is just descriptive. And I mean, the mundane path is bad. We wouldn't have buildings and houses and lamps and teacups and so on without mundane operation, or we wouldn't be able to eat. We wouldn't feed ourselves. But the spiritual path just starts to leave that, just like fog rising away from a pond. It just dematerializes. And so that's what the consciousness needs to do, but it needs to do it by acknowledging the stability of the form. Here's the form. Here is the Buddha. Dogen talked about it over and over and over again. And he always talked about absolute and relative at the same time. So therefore everybody, and in the days when they had no Excedrin, his students had headaches. Do that until nothing happens. Do that until the understanding, the awareness, that which thought there was a thinker and thought there were thoughts, and a feeler and thought there were feelings, and sights and thought there was someone seeing sounds, and so on and so forth, that we impute someone who's having this. At some point, it's not even a point. It's not a point. It's already happened. What you're looking for has already occurred. I mean, it wasn't even an occurrence. It's just already been the case. Yes?
Going off of what Jesse asked, saying that there's no muscle there. When we say train our minds, if there's not some kind of progress, what do we mean by train?
Yeah. It's a trick. I'm just tricking you. Here's how I would say it. It still works, and the reason I use it is because, and I didn't use it for a long time. I actually disagreed with it for a long time, years and years and years, because for the very thing you're pointing out there, is that I just didn't agree with that. And then I come to a little bit different understanding just in the last couple of years of working with people, looking at my own mental activity and consciousness working here, and how it works and how things are working with everyone else. It is a way of seeing that how untrained you are, how the imputation of what training is you can be trained to fetch, and you can be trained to climb a rope, and you can be trained to lift barbells, and you can be trained to eat your food in a particular order. I know I was trained to eat my food in a particular order, and so you can be trained to look at that form and actually go in and do that particular form, whatever it may be. So at the risk of making it look like that's what you need to do by saying train your mind, what I'm using the way in which I'm using that is so you will sit down and look and see how, and here we are in another relative state. I never use the word control, but you have to actually look at how out of control you are, because there's no controller. There never will be a controller. If there's a controller, this is an imputation and this is false, then this is someone who's buying into some kind of propaganda about winning and losing, getting ahead, falling behind, getting something, losing something you want, getting something you don't want. You could say that's the definition of ego. And this doesn't mean we go the other way into some kind of airy-fairy idea, oh, you should just be happy with everything. It's not about being happy with everything. It's about awareness. It's about awareness. When the allegiance switches over from the grasping, rejecting, shutting down, ego mind, the self-centered mind, as it's talked about in the Yogacara tradition, the seventh consciousness. One begins to align oneself with consciousness only. It's an astonishing situation. It is not an accomplishment, and it is not a result, and it is not findable.
How is that not a result?
I said so. It's not a result because you understand that it doesn't have because it is not phenomena in the sense of something that is in time and space. So it transcends that. One of the areas that you begin to sense that is when you sit down and watch thoughts come and go. You realize they don't have a front and a back. You know you're having thoughts, but you can't really go in and go into them, even though Freud did that, and Adler, Jung, and all the other psychologists psychological people after them have tried to track it all down. Most of them totally ignore the 4th century or the 1st century when Nagarjuna, Vasubandhu, Asanga were actually saying this is how consciousness works, and saying it in a very crisp way that is translatable into English. Go ahead.
How does the final disappointment that you talk about show up?
Using disappointment after disappointment, and then the final disappointment, which is waking itself, isn't actually a disappointment. It's just a way of teaching. So it's a way of talking about it, so that one will tend to start to take not necessarily buy into disappointment as something is going wrong. So it's a way of saying, of opening oneself for anything that's coming. It's like saying to yourself, whatever this is, if it's the truth, I want it. And that's a powerful thing to say to oneself. I can't do that for you. I did something like that myself a while back, and I don't care if it kills me. I want to know what this is. I'm tired of going in circles. I'm tired of being deceived by my own mind and other people's minds. I want to know. And as far as I know, I'm not saying there aren't 1,500 other paths, but Buddhism is a way to, this path is a structure that will take you right to the edge of the cliff. And it won't jump for you. It won't step off the raft of concepts onto the shore of nirvana. You have to do that. Go ahead.
How does the truth show up non-conceptually?
Do you get it? It's humorous, but I'm not bullshitting you. The truth is always here. It's right in your face all the time. Just stop putting mud pies on top of it. Don't do 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 it. It's just this. You're completely validated right here, right now, all the way from this position that this consciousness is showing up here, all the way to the center of the earth, all the way out into the center of every galaxy. Yes?
How do I not do something that arises spontaneously?
Just watch it. Just don't add to it. See if it's arising. Thoughts arise about, I don't like that guy. I don't like her. I like this. I want something. I need to do this. I need to have that. This is not working for me. Like when people come in here, when I say, don't ask for jukai unless you're prepared to do this, because I don't want to take you in, help you go into that, and if you're gonna head out and go another direction. Well, that's why I do that. And even then, people still have their ideas and have their I can do, can't do, and I can't do that anymore, or they think I'm, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Yes.
Is it necessary to observe the precepts of Jukai to be helpful to others?
I think so. And again, I'm not saying you couldn't function, have a teacher who you felt knew what was happening and was helpful to you, that you couldn't follow their guidance. It's certainly possible. There are people who don't practice in this way. Several of them. There's some of them on YouTube and places that I haven't met them. But when someone says, look at this, can you look at that? What do you think about this guy? So I can look for 10, 15 minutes or less and know what's happening there. And it's not like I know, like, oh, they're good, they're bad. I might even be able to see why that person is drawn to that person. So I say don't do anything unless you have to. But if it's something you have to do, then follow it all the way to the end.
Is there exertion we can make off the cushion towards awakening?
And I think there is. I think it's different for each person, but I think that endeavoring to stay with whatever is happening, and to be very aware when you abandon what is happening and go into some idea about what is happening. If you see what is happening, you won't know what it is. I don't know how else to say it than that. It might not be all that. I don't have to know stuff. I don't know stuff. And you say, well, that's obvious. But you're in here listening to me. Why would you come in here and listen to me? What are you doing here? I like that. Was that an I don't know? Yeah, I like that. I don't know either. I mean, in the sense of some kind of thing about it. It has to be deeper than your concept. It needs to be really, really, really deep, so you just know you need to do this. If I see someone come this way and talk to me for a few minutes, I know they should stay here, but I won't interfere with them. You know, unless it's a few people, I'll tell them what they should do. But they don't have to mind me. They just think it might be good for them to know how I feel about this. And other people, I don't say that. So it depends on, it's dependent. So in your case, you need to stay here. Why? Because you came here and said you wanted to stay here, so I'm going to help you with that. Yes.
Is Jukai giving you permission to tell us how you're spinning?
Yes, I mean, it makes it closer. You know, it makes it just you're basically saying, it looks like you're doing this. It looks like other people are doing this. I think I want to practice in this way too. So I'm going to take formal vows of the 3 refuge vows and the 3 pure precepts and the 10 prohibitory precepts, and I want to use that form. This is not about obeying. It's not the 10 commandments. It's not a theistic approach. It's an approach where you actually get to be. You have the ability. You're given the permission or the ability to respond to everything out of your own heart, out of your own mind, paranoid or not, out of your own gut, fearful or not, and find this so that you can be genuine with everything that's happening. So that way you don't. So the warfare situation just starts to come. That doesn't mean, like it says in the little pillow in the other room, you may have to kill somebody. So what I'm saying by that, I'm not saying I'm trying to give you permission. Please don't sue me. But I'm just saying that you may, in your karma, you may have things that you are already lined up with a lot of rocket fuel behind them that you aren't going to be able to stop. I don't care how much meditating you do, you might not be able to stand in the way of that. You might not be able to prevent on Thursday, next February, of running over to somebody in an intersection up here and killing them. You don't know what, there's no way to know that. The only thing you can do is be here, be in this body-mind complex right here, and let the karma that is arising as your face, nose, ears, tongue, body, everything, let this karma alone. Stop trying to make it into something else. Facelift is okay. Wasn't that funny? Yes.
Can you rephrase being with what's happening? Is that the same as including openness?
So being with what's happening could involve something that's happening, and it seems to be triggering feelings that feel like claws going up your rib cage, to put it viscerally. I say, just be with that. Don't add on. This wouldn't be happening if, or the reason this is happening is because he, she, they did this, or is doing that, or I didn't do this soon enough. Don't buy into stories about it. If you like stories, read a book. But this situation, just insofar as you can, look at the tendency to want to make a story about everything, to want to turn it into some, validate it or get rid of it or something by chattering about it to yourself. So just simply put, witness the feelings. See what is moving with no addition. And if you make an addition, then don't add to that by I shouldn't make additions. Just notice that. So stay with it. It's called, if you see what it is, it's called compassion. And it needs to start here. If you have to make friends with this, otherwise I'm not saying you won't have a lot of friends, but you have an enemy here and there. And the only way you can have no enemies anywhere is to have no enemies here. So this needs to be seen. More? Sir?
Bringing up you may have to kill somebody. I've been reflecting a lot on like the bad neighborhoods teaching that you give. If we notice that we keep getting into a situation where there's a lot of that clawing feeling, that visceral feeling,
Yeah.
Is it helpful to put up some kind of standard to keep back from that?
It might be. This is a standard. It's a meditation hall, Zendo monastery. This is so it's solid. We're even going to insulate it some more. It's something. We're going to put some energy into making sure that you need to have a place to teach and a place to learn, a place to understand. It needs to be some kind of protected container for that. It's very hard to do it out in the forest where the birds are chirping and you're enjoying yourself. Yes?
Can it be helpful to kind of add some protection to our life after we...
Give me an example.
So, like, just in my particular instance, not drinking or something like that seems to be kind of taking some protection outside of the room here.
Yeah, that would be a good example. Yeah, and so I'm not saying, I don't do a blanket thing with everybody, but just like in your situation, I help you. And I say, if you're looking at me, I'm telling you, don't do it. You don't need it. You really don't need it. It just complicates things. And it would not be any big accomplishment to be able to have a drink every now and then. It'd just be something to brag about. You don't need that. Yes.
Sheldon from Union City
Sheldon.
asks, if there's no way we can ever get better at this, then why do it?
Sheldon, you need to come here so I can give you a good whipping. I'll do my best to respond to that. We have to do, when I say we have to, I mean, if you're listening to me, then we're already past that part of it. You could be listening to Walter Cronkite. But if you see the description, life is suffering, the cause is desire, the goal is cessation, and the path is training the mind, or Shila Samadhi and Prajna, seeing deeply what this is. What is it being addressed by saying it in this way, and what is causing this kind of a reaction from you, Sheldon, is that we're beginning to leave the relative part of the path and go into the ultimate part of the path. You can go in circles. There are a lot of people who teach Buddhism who've never left. And they actually teach it, and usually they're quite fundamentalist about form. You need to do this, you need to do that. That's just a misunderstanding. So in order to not only to leave leave the form without abandoning it, but leave it through understanding and through clarity. In order to do that, one has to continue to work in a way that suggests that we're doing this to get better. We need to do this in a way so we address it, but the fundamental, we have to start out by where the ego is. We start where we are. We think we are somebody. We think we're solid physical beings. We take our ego for granted. Well, of course, you got to have a healthy ego. You got to have self-esteem. You got all the things that psychology and modern culture and everything would tell us. But at some point, we need to start moving away from that. And when we move away from that, we just stop using that as some kind of a credential. And there's a willingness to be more and more and more open, less and less defended, less and less living in the metaphor that Trungpa uses as cocoon. Come out of this cocoon of opinions and ideas and be available to the rest of the world. And so yes, there's something there, but the part that's the important part, as I think I said earlier, is get to the cushion, sit down, do this is very relative situation. As soon as you start to go from the form into the other skandhas, form, feeling, perception, concept, consciousness, you start to get more and more away from something that is relatively dependable. The body is relatively dependable. Have you noticed every morning we wake up? You don't wake up as somebody else, actually. Or maybe you do. Maybe you do. So it's just a way of working with it, Sheldon. But you won't understand it any deeper than just the relative part of polishing a stone, making it more and more shiny, until you have to start there, and then at some point the insight starts to arise around the whole thing, around who's polishing, what is being polished, and the teaching of dependent origination. That stops being a concept, and then the ego mind begins to reel and begins to get freaked out, because it's frightening, because it can see that it's like we feel we're going to come apart, or we're going to dissolve, or we're going to, as sometimes called ego death, when really it's just seeing that it's not real. There isn't anyone, no one solid. This voice is coming out of, I have no idea where this voice comes from, but there's no owner. If there were, you get up and leave. I'm not very entertaining. Further questions? We have a few minutes.
What is the clarity of samadhi?
What do you think? Somebody answer this. Come on, you guys. What's the clarity of samadhi? Answer it for him.
I can paraphrase, I guess. What's the clarity of meditation?
Okay, we'll use that. The clarity is, I'll use a contrast. Your everyday life out, picking flowers, or digging ditches, or driving your car, or interacting with across the back fence with your neighbor about the political situation in Somalia. All those things are very relative kinds of things. And when you meditate, you come into a situation where you begin to see the fundamental structure of all of that, which is confusion. When you're talking, you don't see the confusion. You actually impute or think that you're making sense. They're making sense. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't know. I think we might be out of milk, so I'll go to the store. It's just a relative kind of structure that keeps, yeah, you're here. It's okay. You're wearing clothes. You have eyes. Go look in the mirror. Yeah, you're still here. Whew. I was afraid I was dissolving. I meditate so much. And then I would say, get back, come back in and sit down, hold still, and that's how it feels. Eventually we start to lose our reference points through meditation. The reference point is not samadhi. No reference point is not samadhi. What it is no reference point and no how do you say it? No, not no reference point. Yeah.
No, wait a minute.
Huh?
Neither not.
Near not?
Neither not, no.
Near not? Near not no, or not no? Yeah, neither one. And it's the equality of sameness and difference. Sandokai. This is why read Sandokai 500 times. Do it on a mala so you know you've done it. But read it, Sandokai, and see. And so they keep taking you into keeps taking you into the relative situation over and over and over and over. Not two, not two, not two. Not one, not two, not both, not neither. Yes.
It's time. We're way past time.
What time is it?
It's 2 minutes to noon.
Okay. Are you the person who does things? Okay.
So we'll stand and dedicate the mirror at the back of our yellow chant books, reminding everybody about the donation boxes in the hallway. Please help us as you are able. And also the all day this Saturday. Please join us if you can.
May the mirror this
Buddhists penetrate into all places so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. Ji-o san-ji shi-fu shi-son bu-sa mo-ko-sa mo-ko-ja-ho-ro-mi. The 10 directions, the 3 worlds, all Buddhas, all venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna, Paramita.
O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and the 3 times, please hear us. Please come down out of the light and protect Sokukoji Buddhist Temple Monastery, our Sangha, families, friends, and visitors. Heal everyone who is unhappy, sick, or suffering, and fill them with